to Souls on Tap. I'm Julianne Thon.
And I'm Jennifer Cross.
We'd like to welcome today's guest, Vanessa Fernandez, who is a Biofield Tuning practitioner, correct?
Yes.
Good. And with this healing technique, she incorporates breathwork, Jungian principles, and quantum physics in her practice. Very excited to have Vanessa today. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Julianne and Jennifer. It's so nice to see you too, Jen. Yeah, it's just really lovely to see you again. We haven't crossed paths for a while, and it's lovely to see you.
It's been a while.
So the two of you go back a bit, right?
Well, we took Biofield Tuning, Eileen Day McCusick's course together. The first part of it we took together, and then we just stayed friendly after the course, and we've spoken with each other many times, and we did trading for practice with the tuning forks, and it was really nice to get to know Vanessa. She's lovely.
Ditto, Jen.
Excuse me. Wouldn't you know, I have a tickle in my throat. I haven't had a tickle in my throat for the entire day, but now that we're recording a podcast, I have. Okay, so so if you could, for those who are out there that don't know much about biofield tuning, would you mind kind of breaking it down for us and letting us know what is it and how does it work?
Sure. There's two parts to that. The biofield tuning. I think most people can understand sound as having an effect on the body. So through music, through the sounds of nature, through soothing words from your loved ones, sound has the ability to soothe. So we use tuning forks in biofield tuning, and we work in the biofield. Every living creature has an electromagnetic field. You can think of the signals in your brain and in your nerves as electric signals. And you can think of your heart pumping positive and negative ions, oxygen, carbon dioxide, all through your blood, which contains iron, as magnetic. So we believe that this electrical magnetic interaction is what you project around you. And that's what we work on in biofield tuning.
And what do you believe happens energetically when you're using your tuning biofield? There's all that going on.
Sorry, you cut out there, but I think you're asking about what you believe what's happening energetically when we work in the biofield.
I'm sorry. Did something happen to the connection? Maybe.
Yeah, just maybe you want to ask that question again because it's sort of like jumbled up.
What a strange evening this is regarding technology.
I know, it's very odd. We'll have to edit that part.
No problem. Okay.
So, I was just asking, what do you believe? So it's all that am I phasing out? Am I the one that's having the problem?
You're fine.
With
as far as I can see, Jennifer, you're fine.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I was wondering, all that's going on, there's magnetic, there's in the body, as you just explained. What do you feel happens energetically when you are using your tuning forks and tuning the biofield?
Yeah, so in biofield tuning, we understand that the field kind of holds a record of your existence. And it can be in this lifetime, and I've worked with clients where we also tap into multiple lifetimes. But I think that this record that, let's just say, your soul holds in the field, we use sound to provide that sound energy and sound feedback and vibrational feedback to work in the subtle body and give the body sort of like the vibration and sound feedback for it to be able to hear when it's out of tune, and give it the opportunity and hold space to facilitate the relaxation of any pockets of tension or any dissonance or incoherence in the field. So that's what I think is happening energetically. We're using sound energy um, to provide that feedback, to give the body the opportunity to do its own natural healing.
Yeah. And you can hear when it's out of tune. That's you're doing a motion.
Yeah, so we come in through the field with the tuning forks. We strike the tuning forks. It's about 6 feet out from the center line of the body,
Uh-huh.
and we kind of work in a particular plane. We also work in the central channel through the Earth and Sun stars, um, and we listen. We're listening for coherent sound from the fork. The fork itself provides coherent sound to the body. Um, and for me, actually, I'm sensitive to sound because my background is as a singer. So I've been doing singing and being around music for a very long time, which is also why this work really resonates with me, just intuitively and naturally. But I've also discovered that my ears are not my keenest sense. It's actually my skin. And
Hmm,
so,
interesting.
um, yeah, so when I was actually, before I even started biofield tuning, I had weighted forks and I was using and playing around with weighted forks and feeling the vibration. And if you ask me, and different people have different clairs, but I am very, it's the skin and that I pick up on. And the skin will then communicate to me an emotion, and then as I then keep listening, of course I can hear, because I can feel the dissonance before I can hear it. And then of course you can hear the dissonance as well. And then as we keep striking the fork, um, offering that sound to the body. And we also do other things to help facilitate flow. It can be um, asking asking the client to tune in with their breath, to notice what's going on in the body, or to communicate that underlying emotion. And sometimes other things will pop in. I don't see very clear images, but I will experience scenes. And those are also things that I communicate to a client as well.
So could you give us an example of a scene that might appear?
Sure. Um, so, for example, I might be uh, in sort of like in biofield tuning as well. That record within the field, Eileen has mapped it according to age. So, um, or rather, not say mapped it according to age, but it exists like the rings of a tree. So there is a timeline to the biofield. So I might be at the point where it's a client's, age 4, and I will hear or feel a dissonance or a stop within the field. And then as I keep introducing sound energy to the body by striking the fork, I might then pick up, this is, a real example, but I will pick up then that there is a little boy who is lost in a city. So I won't necessarily see in detail the city, but it will come that he's there in a city, and then that's what I communicate.
Mhm. And then I'm assuming then that scene that you actually experience or you see somehow is attached to either a current or a past life, right? To the client.
Yes, so it will come to me if it's a past life or this life. And so, for example, that particular thing might be in this life. And the thing to also remember is that, so I feel that what we're picking up on primarily is the emotion. And you can think of it this way: whatever sort of distress or overwhelm you are feeling, there is an actual biosignature to it. So, you know, happiness activates the prefrontal cortex. Um, Anger activates the amygdala and the anterior cingulate cortex, as well as increases the heart variability and blood pressure. So there is a biological signature to the emotion as well. And that remains in your memory, whether it's conscious or unconscious. So there are times when I might pick up something which is a period of overwhelm that the person might not even really remember,
Mhm.
but or they might not remember the scene, you know.
Mhm.
Um, but I will be able to communicate the emotion. And often in biofield tuning, we work with the chakra system. So after we tune the Earth and Sun Star and the overall, let's say the overall central channel, we might then ask the body using a pendulum what which chakra might it might need us to work in today. So then perhaps if there's a stop, let's say, in the heart chakra, and the heart chakra relates to sadness, grief, anger. Um, so when I then come into the field, what I interpret a little bit is that this might have to do with the client's ability to express certain emotions, or might relate directly with how the client manages, processes, or experiences sadness and grief. And so, let's say if I come into a particular point in the timeline where I pick up on anger, um, there might be other things attached to it too. So I might pick up like, this relates to your father because we're in the right side versus the left side. Um, and yeah, so there's a lot, there are some correlations that you can make. I don't really make the correlations at the outset. So generally, I'm listening for the emotion. But as we go through, because sometimes then you pick up the same types of emotion at different points in the timeline, and then that becomes an obvious pattern.
Right. Yeah.
And it becomes a pattern that, you would be remiss to not put that together with the chakra you're working with.
Mhm.
In order to then communicate that to the client and bring that awareness to the client in order for them to process and integrate. So, but I'm very mindful of not, what's the word? Um, we have a hollow bone meditation in biofield tuning, which is all about being a clear channel.
Mhm.
Um, and I bring that to every client and every session that I do as well, like being um, open and curious, and communicating it genuinely, um, and not putting any judgment onto it, I suppose. But of course, drawing the connections that may be worthwhile to express to the client.
I
Mhm.
think we experience the same thing through hypnosis. We have to be sharp enough and intuitive enough to acknowledge or to recognize a pattern, because I think in both of our cases, probably biotuning and introspective hypnosis, if there's a pattern there, then that means there's a series of unresolved emotions or unresolved reactions to things that
Mhm.
if we don't clear, help, or I should say, if we don't help the or assist the client to clear, then they're going to continue to experience it again. Why don't you just tell us, how can you tell if there is a blockage in somebody's either certain meridians throughout the body or in throughout their chakras? How does the fork react?
So the fork will communicate a dissonance either in the vibration or in the quality of the sound. So I don't know if you would like me to get my fork so I can play it for
That would
you.
be great.
So I've got a 174 here, and this is the puck that we all use for biofield tuning. And so we would strike the fork, and then we would be deeply listening to the sound quality of the fork and making interpretations from that sound. So I've got a fan actually going on, which they usually tell us not to have a fan, but it's very hot, so I've put one on.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not sure if that's particularly interfering with the fork, but I can feel certain vibrations in the quality of the sound as well. So, for example, okay, so it's changing, and that also happens. And you can't feel the vibrations of the fork, but I can feel that. So sometimes you might hear a very clear sound, but I might feel knowing that this fork has all tuning forks have a few tones. There's a few frequencies in the tone. So you hear an overtone, there is a midtone, and there's also an undertone.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so it's almost like it's a harmonic instrument
Mm-hmm.
of sorts. So I might be able to feel the undertones, for example, and you might not be able to hear them. But you might also then be able to hear if there's a different quality of tone. Technically, we can actually. I've never actually tried to do it. I wonder if I should try to do it now. But I've seen Eileen do it where she can just sort of make it happen, like induce a funny sound in the fork. I've not actually tried. Let's see if we can try. No, it's actually sounding pretty good.
Would
Yeah.
you mind trying it and then holding it up to the computer because
Oh yeah, sure.
it falls off at the end.
Right. Okay. So I'm gonna do a strike. Yeah, when we come to the computer, it gets more buzzy.
Mhm. That would make sense.
Yeah.
So how do you use the tuning fork on the body? I know that you do a motion called combing.
Yeah.
Um, could you show our viewers what that might look like just a little bit? And also, can you describe how you might be able to tell the difference between something that is emotional or physical or psychological?
Yeah. Um, so the first part of that, which is if I were coming to sort of the edge of someone's field, let's say it's here, I would use the fork and then feel into that edge. And then as the sound changes, I might pick up on certain emotions. I might communicate those emotions to the client. I might ask them to do a bit of noticing of their breath or certain breath work patterns. And as the sound resolves into a clearer, coherent sound, I would move in towards the body and find other pockets of dissonance. And all we're doing is actually, we're not spreading that energy around, we're actually bringing that energy back into the center of the body. So that's using an unweighted fork. Sometimes we also use the weighted forks, which looks like these. They have little weights on the tines, and you can't hear them, but you'll be able to see
The vibration.
the vibration. Yep.
Mhm.
And those actually feel really good on the body. Um, and yeah, so sometimes we also bring those weighted forks onto the body. Um, in terms of a difference between something that is an energy block versus a psychological pattern, um, I feel that uh, there's a few different factors here, like something that is an energy block can be caused by um, an environmental and external factor. Um, and also environmental external factors can influence psychological um, processes or thought patterns.
Yeah.
So um, it really kind of depends. But there have also been instances, for example, if you're, um, you know, I haven't encountered that many, for example, entities. But to me, that would also be an example of an energy
Sure.
block.
Sure.
And if you encountered that, um, that's not to do with a psychological pattern. Um, and I do feel that psychological patterns um, you can encounter them in the field. Again, how someone processes anger, how someone speaks their truth or doesn't speak their truth, um, how someone feels about their pleasure. These are things that you can encounter as you work within different planes, chakra planes. Um, and I think as we offer these observations up
Hmm.
to the client, they then it gives them an opportunity to address or process their own psychological pattern, which they may communicate to you, they may not. But either way, you're bringing it into their awareness, which I think is very valuable psychologically for the client.
Yeah.
So what if I came to you as a client and you discovered that I had, according to your intuition and whatever the forks were, however they were reacting, you discovered that I had a great deal of anger, maybe in my heart chakra or whatever.
Mhm.
So you would tell me as a client, you seem to have like an accumulation of anger in your heart chakra area. And
Yeah.
then do you give the client an opportunity to sort of think about that for a while and ruminate, or how do you then clear it?
Yeah. I really love the underlying philosophy of biofield tuning as us being healing facilitators and allowing the client to process their own healing. And I think, in a person centered approach, um, psychologically, that's also doing the same thing. It's interesting also that you brought up, like, let's say, hatred, because that was something recently that I encountered, actually, more in a sound healing session when I placed a weighted fork on someone's sternum. So it was, oh, there's a lot of hatred there. And because I also knew that person, they'd come to my event and I'd known them in another professional capacity, just as an acquaintance. And I sat down and communicated, if you don't mind me saying, and they were like, no, I said, I picked up a lot of hatred when I placed the fork on your heart chakra. And
Hmm.
that person then had the opportunity to go, oh, yeah. And what also then came, I said, I don't know if it's yours or if it's projection. And
Ah.
and then that also allowed that person to process that. I
Mm.
I really feel that sometimes just observing and communicating the observation is enough to create a shift very often.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that then I don't have to say too much for them to go on their way. For some people, I also will offer prompts for reflection after the session, so that they can process a bit. For example, if something came up in a past life to do with ancestral gifts,
Mhm.
some prompts for contemplating that, for example. Or something came up around joy or the lack thereof, then other ways and prompts for reflecting on what little things give you joy, and in
Yeah.
that way you create opportunities again for the client to reflect, um, and come into their own way of healing.
Yeah. So you do something or several things actually that you're owning your practice with your personality and your interests, and breath work is part of that. How have you decided to integrate that into the biofield tuning?
Um, I think, we are taught to, when we go through training, that the breath is such an integral part of biofield tuning. We communicate that we will be using the breath to facilitate flow and release tension. We also advise the client anytime they notice either themselves holding their breath or us, using our breath, to take that as an opportunity to do the same. And as a singer, I have a very intimate relationship with the breath. And, I love breath and breath work because it's free. Like we have access to it all the time. And just by changing our breath, we can activate the sympathetic or parasympathetic nervous systems.
Yeah.
So we can stimulate or down regulate or regulate, just with our breath. And that's incredibly powerful. And I used to use that when I was just a sort of music mentor. And I used to offer that to, the young musicians that I was working with. And as a singer, of course, you learn a lot of diaphragmatic breathing. Um, and you see the benefits of diaphragmatic breathing. So, from my own lived experience, I think the breath is so powerful. And I'm not a trained breathwork facilitator. So, for me, I offer certain breathwork patterns when I do either one on one sessions or group events. Um, but it's just, there's a lot of obviously science behind it. And, when you're introducing more oxygen into the system and not allowing enough carbon dioxide into the system, that can create a whole bunch of problems within the body. When you are doing something that's a more of a circular pattern or something that's extending the exhale and introducing more carbon dioxide into the system, that can also, again, down regulate, activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So and it happens quickly. So even if somebody doesn't really resonate with some of the more uh, energetic, um, the energetic work, they can still feel the energy of their breath. And
Yeah,
that's a real experience that they're having. So it's really, really powerful, and a great asset to,
yeah,
to biofield tuning.
that's
Breath
nice.
breath work just goes back to the beginning of
Exactly.
meditation and all sorts of things.
Yeah, it's
It's
pranayama, right? We
right,
call it biofield and we do all sorts of things now, but
and
the
it helps us to understand that our breath work helps us to understand the I am in who we
mm,
are. That I think is so beautiful. So I happen to be a lover of Jungian principles and Jungian philosophies. So, and from what I read and from what Jennifer had shared with me, there's a lot of Jungian principles that are utilized in biofield tuning. Can you tell me how you use it?
yeah. We don't particularly learn about Jungian concepts or depth psychology in biofield tuning. However, I studied mass communication, and so my first instance or experience with Jung was through mass communication when we talked about the archetypes. Um, but I actually use probably three things that I would say in biofield tuning. One that's actually a natural part of the work, I think, is synchronicity. That the seeming changes in the external world from the changes in the internal world that happen, and that often happens after a tuning session. That a lot of synchronicities occur. Um, the the shadow is another one that I think we do encounter when we're working in the field.
Mhm,
Um, you know, Sometimes a lot of people repress
mhm, mhm,
the parts of them that they don't want to or they think are not safe to show. And in us encountering them within the field, we can shed some light on that and create a bit more of an integrated wholeness within someone. Um, and the other one that I would say that I particularly gravitate towards is the anima animus concept,
Right.
because you know
The
this idea that
male and female for those who don't speak Greek, right?
that's right. So um, I think the anima is the so basically whatever gender you were born with, then you also have the opposite gender um, that you almost project all your ideas about the opposite gender outward. But Jung also believed that you had to resolve that internally. So within all of us, there is both divine masculine and feminine.
The yin and
Um,
the yang.
yeah, that's right. The yin and the yang. Your mother's mitochondria and all the
Right.
other DNA
Mm-hmm.
that you inherit from your father.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at that as just an interplay of, or an opportunity for us um, to to connect with um, our inner masculine and feminine. So yeah,
So it really is helping with well, what did he, the individuation, isn't that what that is?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
being able to resolve issues from the conscious, being able to resolve issues from the conscious and the subconscious and kind of
Mm,
bring it all together for the person by making them aware of, hey, this is going on kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's very
Well,
interesting.
the word authenticity continues to come up in most of our podcasts. We always kind of chuckle about it because we know that that is one of the most important things a human being can do in this lifetime on this earth is to recognize and then acknowledge the true self. And in
mm,
doing so, you discover that things like shadows or the mask or whatever are things that you have put there. And in some cases, even attachments that often can be metaphors, as opposed to some of them are actual real physical attachments, and some of them are more symbolic
mm.
for the client. And that sometimes we realize we put those there. And the key is to find out exactly why. So since biofield tuning deals so much with the exterior, right? The field of the body, the isn't that energy as opposed to inward, right?
Well, it's kind of, you can think of it, the field, as a subtle um, outward projection of what's happening internally.
Okay.
So it is more internal, um, but yes, projected outward in a subtle way.
Which is often what we do with our emotions anyway. We
Yeah.
harbor them inside and then they come out in these bizarre ways that the people around us are like, what is your problem today? So
Yeah.
another thing regarding some of these Jungian principles, I think that Jung believed in integrating opposing forces with the psyche. So how do you guide clients to harmonize and balance those differences?
You know, I I think it's a micro skill, right?
Mm-hmm.
to be able to confront someone in a, and I think when you are sometimes presenting someone with an opposing force within their psyche, it can be confronting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think that's something that I'm not sure how I developed this. It's probably from a young age, but it's always been a little bit of my one of my superpowers, which is the ability to communicate something to someone that might otherwise sometimes feel triggering or offensive in a very loving way. Um, and I think this is the thing also with authenticity. Um, you know, presenting truth to a client again can just be about observing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I notice you. I notice this in your field, and um, but I also notice that you are a very soft-spoken person. Like I notice a lot of this anger, but you're a very soft-spoken person. How do you feel about that? And then just again, like allowing them the opportunity to, go like, yeah, you know what? Actually, I'm really quiet, but I hold it in a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I'm really angry.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, that's interesting. So, like, how might you express your anger in a healthy way? Or I
Mm-hmm.
might send them, um, you know, or I might ask them a question, or if there's someone who's addressed it in a video or a book that, talks about it, or sometimes a lot of the times an Instagram post, I might share that with them. Again, it's just like, I think of these two as like, maybe these are other little synchronicitous moments that we create when our
Synchronicity is really, it appears in all light workers' work. I really think so, because the client comes to you for a reason. You receive the client for a reason. So there's almost a symbiotic relationship that takes place between the light worker or the healer and the client. It's that beautiful give and take.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's intention also. If when you have the intention to have the best happen for the client, the best outcome, the best healing that they can have for themselves. Because as you mentioned, Vanessa, you know, our clients also, we facilitate them healing themselves in hypnosis, and then you find yourself in the quantum realm, right, with intention affecting them, and then therefore everything else and you, and then it just turns into a whole other thing. It's beautiful.
Because sometimes in our work, and I'm sure in your work as well, you have clients that come to you that say, okay, I'm ready to be healed. But in
Mhm.
fact, there are certain things that are going on from either a past life or this current life that they're not ready to face yet. They
Yes.
don't, they're really, it's too, they have a great fear of reenacting, or even in some cases, even more so, understanding their responsibility in that particular emotion that has completely screwed up their life.
Yeah.
So, so in our case, I think all three of us, we can lead the horse to water. We can't necessarily make them drink, but what we can do is send them away with a knowing that this is
Mm.
an area that they need to look at honestly and with authenticity.
Yeah. And like timing is so key too, right? Like, you know, sometimes somebody might keep coming back to you, and you might not communicate something to them in that first session because it was not the right time. But as things evolve,
Right.
then a bit later on, you might be able to communicate something to them because the timing was right for that to come into awareness, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, timing is really important.
Yeah. Ultimately, it is up to them to take the cues that you give them, though, and either think about it or just blow it off, and then maybe it takes a couple times, two, three times for them to be like, okay, I guess that is something, huh? It's sticking around, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think as if we do what we do authentically as well, because sometimes it might be this is not the right time to tell you, but sometimes like this is tough, but it feels like it's the time to tell you, and it might result in like, oh, I'm not going to come back to you, but then years later, you never know. They might remember, oh, remember that person said that to me. You never know. And as you said, Julianne, they came to you for a reason, and we have trust in that reason, and in having trust in in that reason, we are also free to then be and say
Right.
whatever has to be said.
And Vanessa, you mentioned earlier, and I loved this. You referred to the Zen effect of observation that is so important that I have to remind myself constantly because I'm not as good as observing as I am in wanting to jump right in and just take care of everything. So that said, quantum physics we've talked about a lot on this channel, and how the observation effect when it takes place can definitely affect the outcome. So, and you actually touched on this a little bit earlier in the conversation. I imagine that energy can at times cross boundaries, right? And sometimes we as light workers have to be very careful about not picking up other people's energies when we are in that process of healing. So how do you protect yourself from that sort of thing?
Yeah. When I first started, I definitely picked up a lot of other people's energies. And I did the thing that I have done since I was a little girl, which was like, oh no, yes, it's okay. I can handle it. I can
Right.
handle it. Energies,
Been there. Yeah.
And then it's like, oh no, ouch. I have a very strong grounding process, and what I do is I actually kind of, well, first of all, before that, I think the hollow bone meditation. So before every session, I will kind of clear the body and create a sort of like you're just there as a vessel in a way.
This is called the
Um,
hollow bone
yeah,
meditation. Okay.
hollow bone meditation. And it's essentially a meditation that connects you to your bones and your light body, so that you can be a clear channel for the client. And I take that
So
very,
important. So important.
yes, yes, I take that really, really seriously. So that's the pre. And then the post, I will actually go through. I will stand on grass, or I'll go walk on the beach, and put my feet in salt water, or I might jump into the ocean, and I will do a process of sieving through my body, and I will say, that which does not belong to me, I return to the earth to be transformed, because you know the earth is great. She doesn't like judge it as like, oh, this is that person's
Right.
bad energy, right? She
Right.
just goes like, oh yeah, here, give it to me, and I'll make some flowers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I really respect and appreciate Mother Gaia for that. And the other component I feel in being able to be an observer um, is non-attachment. So I don't really attach um, an, a negative connotation to entities. Um, I, in fact, look at them. I try to approach them with as much neutrality or love if I can, because I think that if you then succumb to the fear, then that also is creating a certain kind of resonance.
Mm-hmm.
And my approach towards holding space for others is is that we all have shadows. Some people have, different types of shadows. Some
Mm-hmm.
people have entities.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if we can approach all of that, whether they're shadows or entity, with love and compassion, I feel that that produces the most optimum healing outcome.
I would go so
Yeah.
far as to say that is an absolute necessity. If you are not healing from the perspective of love, and certain, yes, we have to be strong in a lot of cases because of what we do. But if love is not at the basis, then you're not there for the right reason.
Mm, yeah, or you will be there for other reasons, which affects the 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 energy itself.
Well, that I was
You
going
know?
to say that affects
Yeah.
the chi, right? So yeah, because we know, again, according to the observer effect, that particles can be changed based on the emotion that we put on the particles. So yeah, very interesting.
Do you find that most of the people that you work with have lasting effects from this whole entire really intricate process? Or do they um, not do their part and keep getting these blocks back after you clear them?
Um, I think there are certain things that we can do with returning energy and bringing awareness through biofield tuning. Um, and I think the relationship we have with our clients, if that bond continues past a first session or past a second session, there can be more that we can help for them or facilitate for them. But and my own personal experience with biofield tuning has given me a lot of long lasting effects. Um, and I also feel that, but I mean, to say that like every session will produce like a very long lasting effect is, I don't know if that's realistic to say. Um,
Yeah.
I have done for, when I reflect on the sessions that I've done, the kind of results that come for people. For example, someone with chronic insomnia can have a good sleeping patterns for like 3 weeks, or somebody who's going through surgery, pre-surgery will have like no pain after the surgery, which is like unheard of, and then also quicker healing through sessions. So those are some things which are like positive effects, I would say, from biofield tuning. Um, I do feel that it is still up to the individual to the individual always has control over their own healing journey. And so if someone, does not want to change, um, then and there might be a lot of reasons why they don't want to change.
Yeah.
And if they are not comfortable with you bringing up the very reasons that
Mhm.
why they
Yes.
cannot change, they won't work
Yeah.
with you. And so that will just then that's their journey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to meet the student where they are. I learned that actually in public education, teaching all different grades. That's really important to do. So uh when the client is done, do you provide some sort of an aftercare program for them? Or, for example, do you tell them go home immediately and get a pencil and a book and start journaling so that you can acknowledge and recognize some of the subtle changes that might take place that they may not remember a week from then?
So, because I don't have like the best memory sometimes, and because one of the great things about biofield tuning is they provide us with resources. So there's literally like a post-care document. So I always tell them I will share with you the post-care document. And if usually after the session, sometimes they have some questions for me, and I will answer those questions, but I will also communicate that I might need a bit of time to reflect, and then I might give them some further prompts or anything
Instructions.
that came up upon reflection, which I always offer for them to take or leave. Um, and so, yeah, usually I will send the post care document to them straight away. I usually also communicate that, like, take care of yourself. You can do salt bath, or you can please be kind to yourself. Please drink lots of water. Please do something nourishing for yourself, etc., etc. We also communicate some of the potential detox symptoms that happen, that sometimes happen and sometimes don't happen. Um, and then I'll usually just check in with them um, the day after, or a little bit later with any reflections, if any, or just to see if they're experiencing any detox symptoms, just so that then they might also say to me like, I've been reflecting about this, or like I've decided to incorporate this back into life, like things like that. So
Yeah.
and then I kind of let it be,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, and let it be like you can always reach out to me whenever, and I always love to send love to my clients. I feel like every person that I encounter, client or not, like when you engage with them and you see, um, because the soul at its essence, I feel that the soul at its essence is love. And we are actually always just going through this process of connecting with or remembering that love, or expanding that love within,
Right. The
right?
expansion. Right.
Yeah. And so um, yeah, I'm a bit of a lovey person, let's just say. Not overly lovey, but very like, hey, I see you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I witness how bright your soul is, that you have that capacity for love, and I'm always here to remind you of it. Yeah,
It's a way of honoring their existence.
totally love that. Yes.
Jennifer, in when you're doing your sessions in introspective hypnosis, you use biofield tuning on occasion. Do
I
I
do.
understand that? And so, I'm just curious, how do you blend the two in a session?
So when I feel like when somebody's making a significant shift in the process of hypnosis. For example, somebody is has just released an attachment and they're filling that empty space now with energy. Whatever energy that is that they want to fill that space with. I will sound the tuning fork while they're doing that, and it adds significantly to the experience for my client, that the vibration, the energy of that. And you can see them like literally, they'll be there doing it. And as soon as I sound the tuning fork, they go, like they can feel it. And then they tell me afterwards, oh my God, how did you know which tuning fork to use? And it's just intuitive which one I use, of course, and there's not a script for that. So, yeah, and then sometimes I will take the tuning fork and use it because it doesn't pick up on Zoom. When I strike it, it doesn't sound. So I can use it for myself in here because, as Vanessa knows, you can do this remotely. You can do the whole process remotely. The person doesn't have to be in front of you.
Right. And we know for a fact that the computer and the technology and the speakers in the computer doesn't have to pick up the sound.
Yeah.
That's
But
it.
I can hear it. I can hear the
You can hear it,
sound
and it
and know,
travels.
yeah.
We know through scalar, uh, and again, mechanical and quantum healing, it can travel. That healing and that energy travels, whether it can be heard or not.
Yes. Yes. So that's how I have integrated it. And actually for a lot of people, Vanessa mentioned earlier that there's this pre-work that you do to the session, which is balancing the head and the feet basically. And I do that to my clients lots of times to balance them before I do the session, the hypnosis session. And they don't know what's going on most of the time, but they afterwards they say, "Hey, you know what? I just like dropped into this amazing relaxation after, you got finished
Mm-hmm.
doing that. Whatever you did, it was okay."
Well, you, as I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you have also assisted some entities, spiritual entities that have and attachments. You've helped to once they have detached to send them to the light through
Yes.
that resonation and that vibration.
Yes.
That's such
Yes,
a
I am.
beautiful concept.
Yes, it's
So,
it,
Vanessa, where do you see this going in the future? I mean, we all want, it's growing, it's expanding. So much of holistic healing is being revered in a very different way now, as opposed to traditional medicine. What do you see this doing in the future, and where would you like to see it go?
Um, it's such an exciting time, you know.
Boy,
And some of us incarnated specifically for this time.
I know. I keep reminding myself that every day. You chose to be here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's and I have I have a 4-year-old, my beautiful son, who, when I think of, I get really excited about the world that he will inherit,
Oh, that's
um,
beautiful.
especially because we live in this time where so many of us who are open, spiritually open, evolving, connecting, doing the light work. Um, there's so many of us now, and more and more and more, and it just feels like it's really supporting the earth, um, Gaia, and us as the human race to continue to evolve in a way that is not destructive, you
Mhm.
know. And so I love that, there are so many different modalities. Here in Australia, I'm part of this little group of facilitators, and it's so nice. It's different modalities, and we all come together once a week, and different people rotate offerings so that just the facilitators can receive.
Yeah.
Um, and it's really amazing too when facilitators get to receive from each other, because you know we understand each other on a different level, and we
Right.
give to each other on a different level, and then we receive on a different level. So
Exactly.
I find that really beautiful, that we live in a time where that's happening. And I think many of us feel this shift, and it's a bit of a, nobody said it was going to be easy. you know so it's a bit of a
Well
chaotic
said.
time at the moment.
No.
And if anyone, you guys strike me, if you're an entrepreneur, if you've done anything, made your own way, like, that you don't look at struggle as, anything other than an opportunity for success. So you
Hmm.
can not be afraid of troubling times, and just sort of like, all right, let's go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I'm really excited, and I think that I'm of the belief of it's already here. So holding that love, and um, that deep connection to all beings, all nature, um, to source, God, whatever you want to call it. I feel that connection is really growing and strengthening and manifesting, in its own way.
Right. And I agree with you. And the key is also to increase the understanding worldwide that there is no separation.
Mm.
That has become particularly ironic to me in the political climate of this earth right now. That if we could acknowledge the fact that there is not a separation and that we are one, it would allow that compassion and that patience and that understanding to be more prominent.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that's why I also feel that, a lot of Jungian concepts, like, he was really ahead of his time.
Way ahead.
Unfortunately, the mainstream just latched onto the hero's journey, but there's so much more to him and his principles that meets the eye. And I actually find a lot of, you know Jung and depth psychology as almost like this bridge between mainstream and new age spirituality. Like, there's so much in there, um, that's
Yeah.
wonderful. But yeah, like, I think when we can accept that, I'm a girl, and I'm a woman, and I'm female, but I have masculine qualities within me. I don't need to view, like, hate on all men, or, like, men don't need to hate on all
Yeah.
women.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And we don't need to, like, oh, the light, the light, the light, the light, not the shadow, not the shadow. It's like, oh no, we kind of need both of those things. hopefully we can come to a bit more of a balance and a whole.
Well, and we've all been the opposite of our sex today, and throughout many different lives. So it's sort of a futile argument at this point. You just like,
Yeah.
it's like, well, however you want to perceive this is fine, but just remember, you've already been that other person.
You know,
Um, Go ahead.
I have a question. I don't know why I thought of this, but I guess when you were talking about your little 4-year-old boy, do you teach him? Because usually children really resonate with this. Are you
Mhm.
teaching him so that he can carry on your legacy, if you will, in the new world?
So I believe that he chose me and his father because
Oh yeah,
he is actually way more in tune than we are. And so I think I look at our role as to just create the space for him to do whatever it is he's meant to do.
Right.
Um, Sometimes he likes the tuning forks. So at other times he's like, "Mommy, go away," and then other times you need to tune daddy, and sometimes he's like, um,
That's great.
and he's just learning. I actually like encourage him a lot with breath, like, because I think the sound, he loves to sing, and we know that that's humming and vocal toning is all very helps with regulation as well. So
yeah,
he's I'm just naturally encouraging him to use his free tools, his breath, um, the sound or vibration. I think awareness might take a little while, but I think he over time he might be able to spend more time reflecting or meditating, and I would love to
yeah.
encourage that in him. Yeah,
He is only 4.
he is only 4. Yeah, I'm not going to push it.
But you
I'm
know
not going
what?
to.
The, the I don't know what the key to being a good parent necessarily is. I'm still trying to figure it out, but my daughter is now 22 years old. And there's I had to recognize that when I had my son and then my daughter, that they were going to be their own individuals. They were not going to be a carbon copy of me. As much as I thought they should be, that's not why they're here. And you have to, even if their path is polar opposite of yours, you have to allow them to travel that path in the way that is best for them. And whatever that destination is, you have to allow that to be as well. That's a hard lesson to learn as a parent. It's so
Oh,
hard. Even though I know it, backing off is not my forte.
you know what? I tell you though, because they're so much closer to source, right? And my son's really cute. Like, so he was sort of, he didn't want to brush his teeth or something, and I was like, Ryan, and I was like, we need to brush your teeth, and then he's like, you brush it, mommy. And I said, Orion, mommy and daddy are not the sort of parents who are going to do everything for you. And I think you know that. That's why you chose us, right? That's why your soul chose us. And then he went, hmm. And so I feel like, it's also really interesting. I think there's more and more also parents who are having children at this time when there is this awakening. And I'm sure that these children knew that's why they're also here, to continue on that that work and that connection.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's why I'm very excited for what he will be. But I agree, Julianne, it's a struggle a lot of the time. It's a constant reminding. I'm like, okay, you gotta let them, they're a sovereign being, he's gonna
Mhm.
do his own thing. Yeah.
And then also as an adult and as a parent to recognize that everybody around us are actually a facet of who we are. Like
Oh yeah.
I've been my daughter, I've been my husband, they have been me. But when
They
you're
are you.
right, and to take it even further, really drive it home, they are us. But oh, I guess that just completely. So Toys R Us was never really a thing then, huh?
Oh my gosh, no.
I just
I'm
had to,
over here.
I had like, had I known then what I know now, I would have called up their corporation and told them, you can't, this is not the right message. Although we've probably been toys at some point too, so who knows?
We're somebody else's toys.
Right.
What is the name of your business?
Um, so the business is called Stellar Sound. Eventually, my partner and I think we will do everything sort of sound related there. But my website is soundslikevan.com, and that's just been a nickname that I've used for a long time. So it's just
Okay,
stayed.
I think that's a
very
great
good.
name. I think that's a
Yeah,
great name.
it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and it suits you.
Yeah.
Definitely suits you. Well, gosh, Vanessa, I'd really like to thank you for coming on. This has been a joy. It's really been a pleasure having you on.
Oh, it's so lovely to talk to you both, and just wanted to honor and affirm your wonderful wisdom and all that you're doing, and thank you so much.
And we
Thank
feel the
you.
same way.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And I'm sure that your work is just amazing because you are.
Oh, likewise, Jen.
Yeah,
I was
Vanessa
just
had told me about you, and she was really singing your praises. She thinks a great deal of you.
Oh,
So,
yeah, I really, I really enjoyed the sessions that Jen and I used to exchange because when we were doing the training, um, I was always, something always drew me to Jen because you could feel like her realness and also like her experience. And, I was lucky enough to experience that when we were doing training sessions. So, yeah,
Thank you
just,
for saying that.
yeah, Jen's amazing.
she is an amazing, amazing girl. So, so I'll be sure to put your contact information in the description box below once we get this up and uploaded.
Awesome.
I want
Thanks,
people
Jillian.
to for sure have a way to get in touch with you and to learn more
Absolutely.
about you and to book sessions. And for those of you who are watching, please remember to like and subscribe and put into the comments what type of healing modalities that you would like for us to cover on the show, because remember, we are here for you. So thanks to all of you out there. And again, Vanessa, thank you. And Jennifer, thank you. And we will
Thank
see you
you.
next time on Souls on Tap.